Right now, I'm pretty far off the beaten path. To get to my next campsite, I dig deep into mining territory. I'm now in public land, managed by the Bureau of Land Management. Public land is for use by the people. Many camp, hunt, hike, and even live out here off the land. There are 2 ghost towns in this area. The abandoned mining towns of Coloma and Garnet are nearby, and I honestly can't wait to check them out. As for me, I need to make myself at home and finally indulge in some dispersed camping. There are no outhouses out here. Nobody tending to the campsites, no fences, no landowners, no fees, no neighbors, no light pollution, and no cell service. Nothing is designated, nothing is owned. It is as free as it gets out here, and partaking in the tradition of dispersed camping is also a responsibility. Many of the wildfires started in the western U.S. are caused by campers in remote areas like this. There are no garbage facilities. Wildlife, such as grizzly bears and wildcats, can attack you. Sleeping alone at night in such an inaccessible and outlying region can be pretty nerve-wracking. I honestly cannot wait to start. Before setting up camp, I've arrived at the historic mining ghost town of Garnet. The town was populated from the end of the Civil War till about World War II at the very latest. The town was built around a stamp mill before gold was discovered nearby. The purpose of the mill the town was built around was to pound material for processing and extracting metallic ores from rock. In January of 1898, the boom began. There were 4 stores, 4 hotels, barbershops, a school, a doctor's office, basically everything a town needs. Oh yeah, don't forget about the 13 saloons. Mines began to dry up, the population dwindled. A fire broke out in 1912 and burned down about half the town. Afterward, only one man remained in the town by the name of F.A. Davy, still running the hotel and general store. While the main source of income would have been the mines, there were still other professions other than miners to make Garnet the village it was. Families raised children here. Young men and women would pass through on their way to parts unknown. Ranchers, loggers, hermits, and other Montanans from the countryside would come to Garnet to resupply or to tie one on in one of their many saloons. Because of its isolation, I imagine it being the last place you'd learn about major developments in the outside world. It would have been a town of drifters and pioneers. A lot of things were left behind when Garnet was abandoned. Without the automobile, when people moved away, they tended to take only what they could carry by horse-drawn wagon. When the jobs dried up, Garnet's retreating residents would leave things behind as if they'd left on vacation. Many chairs, beds, dressers, and other furniture still remain in Garnet. This is the most intact ghost town in Montana, but it, like many others, is slowly falling apart. The remaining structures were put up in such a hurry during the gold rush, they were not built on stable foundations. Regular wear and tear of the seasons and the settling of the buildings threatens their ability to remain standing. The interior of some buildings are propped up and roped off from tourists to prevent a potentially fatal collapse. Garnet is harder to maintain than ghost towns you may find in the American Southwest, where the drier, warmer climates maintain structures throughout the ages. The town really is a treasure to Montana. To keep the ghost town alive, so to speak, the town is maintained by the BLM, which receives its funding mostly from donations. BLM employees give tours, and you're able to walk through much of the buildings, giving a glimpse of a life in a more simpler and rugged time. It's free to visit the town, but a suggested donation box mans the entryway of the parking lot, hoping to collect funds that will keep this town standing for future generations to visit. The state of Montana even began a program where residents of the state can opt to pay for a special style of license plate that's proceeds go directly to preservation, restoration, and enhancement projects on ghost towns around the state. Garnet directly benefits from these funds. The people, and in turn the government, prioritizes the preservation of the history of Montana's mining past. It was very cool to see a boomtown that didn't particularly limp onward into the 20th century, but maintained its turn-of-the-century aesthetic. Boomtowns like these have happened all over the United States, and many of them have either been bulldozed, flooded, or simply maintained their populations and grew into today's major cities. Garnet just seems to have been frozen in time. After visiting the town, I set up my gear for some dispersed camping. I'll be spending the next couple nights here completely alone with no known neighbors for miles in any direction other than the wildlife, the mountains, and the stars.